Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David. Happy Sunday afternoon to you. It's a beautiful day out there today.
I wish I could have been outside today. Not to be
Mm.
Bruce. Brutal 7-3 loss to the Washington Capitals. Let's get right at it. Two good things, two bad things, and two numbers. Plus one conundrum at the end. We haven't had the conundrum this year, but we're going back to the conundrum at the end of this one. What is your good thing?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the start of the game. Maybe the first 10 to 15 minutes of the first period. Edmonton came out of the gate like I hoped they would, skating hard and connecting and making crisp passes and getting pucks deep and simplifying the two things I talked to Kurt about yesterday and yesterday's conundrum. And we um, uh, they got a really cheap penalty call early in the first period where Connor McDavid looked like toe pick to me, and uh, the Washington guy in the vicinity got whistled and sent off for tripping, which it wasn't. But that be that as it may, the power play came out and they really connected. Some good sharp passing and a great three-way passing play across the middle of the ice from McDavid to Nugent Hopkins to Drysdale, and he wired it home. And they followed that up with several good shifts. And this is good. They got the thing going that they need to get going because they got to start playing like a team again to turn this season back around in the right direction because it's been sliding for a little while, not just yesterday and today, but for a while. And right up to 15 minutes or so. When did that first goal go in? Right before that, 17-15 in Washington. They kind of got a bit of a fluky bounce off a nothing play, an outside shot bounced off two guys in front and went right to Tom Wilson with the open net, and he cashed it. And that was the end of the good hockey from Edmonton pretty much for the entire game. There was very little encouraging from 1-1 till 7-3. I mean, obviously, I got a couple more goals, but even those were kind of against the flow of play and not particularly deserved. They just didn't have anything going on, David. So, my good thing is the first quarter of the game.
All
So,
right.
extrapolate from there.
Yeah, it was looked like they might be in the game, and then Arvidsson took that stupid penalty, as you say, and just uh, I don't know why he did that. What's the point?
Yeah, right before the end of the first,
Yeah,
that was a real killer. We'll
it
talk
was.
about that when we get into the bad thing a little bit more. What's your good thing, David? You must have seen something good out there today.
Well, Bruce, I thought RNH was showed some signs of life in this game. More though, more. Let me think. More than any other, maybe Skinner. It's between Jeff Skinner and Nuge for signs of life
Mm-hmm.
in this game, and they're kind of tied. Skinner did score a nice goal right at the end there, but Nuge made a very nice pass to Draisaitl early on the power play for Leon to launch his executioner shot, and this is a really deadly attack triangle for the Edmonton Oilers. When McDavid comes down the wing on the left side, he can shoot from there, and he's a very deadly shooter from that spot. He can put it down to Hyman, or he can pass over to Draisaitl. So there's already three options, and now he has a fourth. And they've been doing this play for about a year now, um, where Nuge comes kind of the top of the circles in the middle of the ice, and he can put it to Nuge, who can also shoot from there. So they have to respect that. Or this is a way to get a different angle for Leon to get off his one-timer shot. And Nuge made a fantastic pass to Draisaitl. He
Mm-hmm.
got it and immediately whipped it over hard and fast and true along the ice, and Draisaitl just blasted in the net again. It's a very difficult skill play from three players in a row. McDavid making the pass, Nuge making the pass, Draisaitl making the shot. But they're also fantastic that they can do this. And I thought, okay, they're rolling. but no, not to be. Nuge did come back. I think it was 5-1 at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and one of Zach Hyman's few signs of life in the games. In the game, he got in the forecheck, popped the puck to Arvidsson, who popped the puck to Nugent Hopkins, who made an absolutely brilliant move and scored top shelf on the goalie. It was just a great goal by Nugent Hopkins. Great hands in tight. He also caused another grade A shot in the third, hustling in and winning the puck behind the net. Arvidsson got off a grade A shot through his hustle. Klingberg hustled. Hyman hustled. It was a hustle play by 3 players, including Arvidsson. All 4 of them were hustling and working hard on that one, and Arvidsson got off a shot. But Nuge kicked it off, winning the puck behind the net on that third period grade A shot. So he had way more really good moments. And honestly, Bruce, that play where I talked about where you have 4 guys hustling to create, this is how Team Canada in the end turned it around. In their first 2 games, I'd been making this point. In their first 2 games, they only had 2 grade A shots on hustle plays, hard plays around the net. And then in their last 2 games, where they won both of them, they had about 10 in each game. It was a completely different team. You've got to hustle in hockey and bear down and just go for it. And the Oilers didn't do that hardly at all in this game, except for a few players, particularly Nugent Hopkins. So he's my good thing.
Fair enough.
What's your bad thing? Now, we were talking earlier, we could have gone 2 bad things each, but
we could have gone 5 bad things each, or 10 bad things each.
We really
Not
could have
run out of things.
Yes, we could have. We could have. Maybe we should have. But we're only going to go with 1 bad thing each, not to belabor things, because it's just 1 game in February, late February. So let's not.
Yeah, my bad thing is actually a persistent bad thing that's persisted for the entire month of February. I mean, mind you, there was 2 weeks of it with no hockey.
Yeah.
Edmonton's penalty kill. 2 chances today, 2 power play goals against. And the month of February, 6 games now, going back to the Toronto game on the 1st of February. The Oilers had taken 13 standalone minors that they had to kill, and they have actually killed 5 of them for a penalty kill percentage of 38%. And in 6 out of all 6 of those games, the first penalty that Edmonton took wound up with them fishing the puck out of their own net, and the penalty taker taking the skate of shame back to the bench. And 2 of the games, today being one of them, they gave up a later second goal. But not once this month have they taken a penalty at the first part of a game and killed it. Not once. 6 games in a row. They've given up a goal on the first power play opportunity for the other team. And it's a combination of things. I mean, the PK is brutal. The goalies aren't making any saves. And, I'm sure there's bounce here or there that are involved in it. And at times, the problem is taking the penalty, which in this case, utterly, I got to say, dumbass penalty by Victor Arvidsson there. They've just given up the tying goal. It's late in the first. It's 1-1. You take 1-1 into the dressing room and call it a good road period, like the announcers sometimes do. And Arvidsson, I guess he took a shot earlier in the shift, they were saying, and the puck goes to the Edmonton net, and the guy pulls up in front of Pickard. It's not like he's going into the crease or jabbing for a rebound or anything like that. And Arvidsson decides he's going to cross-check the guy, and the ref decides, that looks like a penalty to me. Off you go. And then you have at 19:36 of the first, the go-ahead goal, which put Washington ahead for the whole rest of the game. And so the penalty kill didn't do its job, but the guy taking the penalty, I mean, to me, he's first on my list for press box. Next game, they're going to sit a guy out. That's a message that needs sending, because that's just not acceptable. And the PK needs a major reworking, because none of them are getting it done right now. Just from the goalies, D pairs, forward pairs, whatever. They're just getting worked. And it's become alarming. I mean, 38% penalty kill over any identifiable period of time. You want it to be like 75 is kind of mediocre to poor. 38 is half of that. They gave in
Yeah.
four. If they gave in four on 13 chances, that would be poor. They gave in eight.
And that first one, man,
Oh,
outside shot, goes,
yeah,
there was a high slot screen on the
hmm
goalie on Pickard, but man, it just, he was not
went
set.
right
He didn't,
through him.
he wasn't, he was like,
Didn't have his stick on
he
the
had to
ice.
know, like, okay, he didn't know where the puck was going, but he knew a shot was coming at that point. Why isn't he set? Didn't he
Mhm.
know a shot was coming at that point? Like, did he not even see that? How could you miss that? Like, it was like, who was it? Was it Tom Wilson in the high slot? I don't think so. Like, was it like,
The guy in the slot, who the hell was it? It was Chikrin who shot from 58 feet, I think it was, 56 feet. And it wasn't like he picked the top corner. He put it right in the middle of the net along the ice. And the guy that went to tip it for Washington was either Strom, it might have been Wilson. No, it was 53. It was 53. It was, I remember the number now, on the play. Ethan Frank. Well, you got to be really careful about Ethan Frank. And the Oiler D man kind of shadowed him. And I guess Pickard thought he's going to tip it for sure. And I got to be ready to cover wherever it goes. And he opened up the, where the puck was already going because Buddy
he
missed the
was,
tip and it went
he
right through
was,
Pickard.
he was like, Pickard was standing up straight still, I thought, like standing up, trying to look
Well,
over the screen or something. Like he just, anyway, that was
it
a pathetic
wasn't
goal.
tipped, and it was a brutal goal. And like I say,
Yeah.
it's not even necessarily a fail by the penalty kill, other than the goalie's part of the unit. You need to make a freaking
It
save
wasn't like
once in a while.
Frank is not a big player, and it wasn't like it was a Philadelphia Eagles defensive lineman blotting out the sun there.
No, it was
Like
not.
Pickard gets
Wasn't Protas or Ovechkin or one of them 240 pounders that they got.
Pickard gets exploited by this on goals against consistently, and it's because he's a smaller player, a smaller goalie, and it's why there's not a lot of smaller goalies in the NHL. And it happened again there on the second power play goal. I mean, it was an Ovechkin blast, and so those are, probably second right now to Draisaitl blast, but Kulak's job is to, it's a tough assignment, and I would not want to take it. It's next to mission impossible, but it is possible. You got to block that shot. You got to get out there. Chris Russell, I remember Chris Russell blocking that shot and thinking, oh God, that guy's got such guts. Kulak has got to read that play, get over there and block that shot. Sorry, that's the job. And he wasn't even close. And it's a lack of
Oh,
buy-in that,
who who would have
go ahead.
guessed that Ovechkin would have fired a one-timer from the left circle, David? You couldn't possibly have anticipated that. Sorry to
More like the
interrupt.
left boards. He was way out there in Draisaitl territory and he fired it in. Now that's a tough play, and like Leon often gets off his shot too, right? But yeah, you got to know that's coming, and you got to be ready to block it, and it didn't happen. So yeah, and Janmark got benched, Bruce. I was watching the highlights for the grade A shots from last game, which you and Kurt covered off so well. I enjoyed the podcast immensely. Um, Janmark wasn't hustling on the PK, and that's why he was benched. I think it was for that specifically. He was. I just thought, man, I haven't seen Janmark kind of slacking off on the PK, but he was in that game, and it's not acceptable, and it's why they're getting scored on repeatedly. My bad thing, Bruce, is the fifth goal, which is kind of a weird thing because it's 5-1. The game's 4-1 already, kind of out of hand. But I just thought it epitomized um, the mental mistakes and the lack of effort by the Edmonton Oilers in this game. It starts with Klingberg at the blue line and he fumbles a puck, which happens. But then he has a chance just to shut down. He just has to take the body, really. He's still kind of going for the puck, but he just has to take the body of the Caps forward coming in on the attack, and he fails to do that. He loses the battle down the boards, and the guy steams in there, and it's essentially a 3-on-2-ish thing, and then, but it develops into a 4-on-3, and it's a 4-on-3 because Matthew Savoy has taken the day off on the back check, taken the shift off on the back check on this one. He had every opportunity to skate hard and stick with his player, and it was his player who ends up making the assist. I can't remember who it was, but he eventually charges into the slot and gets the pass and passes it back to the goal scorer for the goal. Savoy should have been on that guy. And if he wants to stay in the NHL, he's got to make that play. He can't have that happen where he's
He's got to
lackadaisical on a
be in
back
there.
check. He's got to be in there. He can't be coasting. And he was. So this, first impressions, I had a good one from his game. And he had a really good forechecking moment early in this game.
Yes, he did.
But it's one thing to hustle on the attack. You must hustle on defense, especially if you're trying to make the team. Connor McDavid did hustle back on the back check there, but he did a fly through right through the defensive slot. He just kept going instead of sticking with his man. Darnell Nurse, I have some sympathy for Darnell Nurse. He was caught in the red light zone, not covering a passing lane or the shooter, but there was three guys kind of passing it around him in that moment. So it was a tough play for him to stop, but he didn't stop it. But the flyby, the weak back check, the weak board play, those typify the Oilers game right now, and they have Bruce for 2 weeks before the Four Nations tournament.
Let's call it February. Yeah,
February is a good way to put it.
Yeah. Well, Savoy, he got a shift there with Draisaitl and McDavid, and they were trying to narrow. Washington had just scored on the power play to make it 4-1, and I'm no doubt the plan was to try and get one back before the end of the period. When the puck went the other way, the forwards were just, it reminded me, that goal reminded me of beer league hockey, where you make a rush on one net and it doesn't work, and the other guys break away 4-on-1, and everybody just sort of stands from a distance and watches the four guys pass the puck around 40 or 50 times before somebody finally taps it in. Because the defensive zone coverage was, it was abysmal. The Washington Generals play better defense than that. That's a team that gets whooped by the Harlem Globetrotters on the regular. Like, there was nobody there. And the poor D-men, I mean, I guess they were there, but they were outnumbered, and the puck was just like tic-tac-toe, tic-tac-toe, tic-tac-toe in the net. And just embarrassing lack of effort, commitment, execution on the defensive side of the puck. And
two things, Bruce. I wrote the Harlem Globetrotted it on that play in my game grades. So we both had that in mind.
Okay,
and the second thing is, I think you've insulted beer league by the Oilers' effort on that play. I'm just half joking, but listen, I
used to play it.
I played beer league hockey, and
I've watched goals like that from the other end.
People hustle hard. There's lots of people who hustle really hard in beer league and won't let that happen. Now, as things go on and people start getting tired, that does happen now and then. So it is a fair comment. But listen, there's all kinds of guys in beer league who gave it way more effort than Savoy did on that shift, and it wasn't acceptable. Another thing.
Let's say it looked like a goal from the 120th hour of the world's longest game.
There you go. We're going to move on to our numbers. I'm going to just give a bonus number before you give your first number. This is the first time, I think, where we've had a player with two bad line changes in a single period leading to grade A shots. Evan Bouchard, once on the power play, he did it, and then there was an even more egregious one later in the period. I can't remember who broke in, but two bad line changes by Evan Bouchard, same period. Man, the mental errors that guy is making right now, it's really his critics are having a field day, and the beatings will stop when the play improves. It's not improving right now. What's your number, Bruce?
Yeah, my number is -11. This is the plus-minus figure of one Connor McDavid in the last 4 games. Count them, 4 games, and in fact, the last 11 periods, -11. And 2 of those were empty net goals, so we'll give a little bit of a pass for that. One was a shorthanded goal by the other team against the Edmonton power play. And at even strength, 0-4, 0-4, 8 against in the last 4 games, 0-2 in each of the 4 games. It's not like it's a one-off thing where there's one real bad one that sank the whole works of it. In the last 3 of those games with McDavid on the ice at even strength, 5-on-5, the shots on net have been 6-4, 12 against, 4-4, 9 against, 4-4, 7 against. And that's in roughly 50 minutes of 5-on-5 play where the Oilers mustered 14 shots and allowed 28 and got outscored in those three games 6-0. And I mean, what's going on? I mean, it's not all him, but it's the guys around him and the goalies around him and maybe the goalies on the other team. But his game, it's like he's checked out. Like he's not there right now. Like no shots today. And I mean, guess maybe he wasn't too inspired by having Vasily Podkolzin and Sammy Kapanen on his wings. But my thinking is, if those are your wingers, you might as well shoot the puck because they're not likely to put it in. And yet there was just really no. In those 4 games, he's got 2 assists on power play. And that's been all of the offense. And this is, the world's best player. Everybody agrees. I heard it over and over again during the Four Nations, but he's not been the world's best player in the NHL this last while. And today was just the latest. I know some of it's just a fluke of distribution, and some of it is he's playing very poorly for him for quite a while now. Like he had a poor game against Colorado, and then yesterday and today, I'm not sure it was very wise, frankly, to put him back in the lineup so fast. But I guess he wanted to be out there. He said he did, but didn't see much in the way of drive or inspiration or defense from him. And I'm getting to the point where I'm becoming alarmed.
Well, I would be if the bad play hadn't been in the bread on the sandwich for the Four Nations tournament where he was outstanding. And I think that the McDavid, listen, I should have given him a 2 today. Actually, I gave him a 3 out of 10. Probably deserved a 2, but he was poor. But he didn't create one grade A shot at even strength, Bruce. He averages 6 or 7 a game.
Well, the team had 4 shots in that whole time.
He made mistakes. The grade A shots in this game, for those keeping track of those kinds of things like us, 19, 11 for the Caps with a subset of 5 alarm shots, 7-4 for the Caps. But McDavid, I think there is a Four Nations hangover on the Oilers, Bruce, is how I'm going to put it. Both of the players who attended and those who didn't. In that, I think Hyman and Bouchard were probably sitting there eating their hearts out, thinking they should have been on that team and been on the ice. And both of them had. Bouchard was terrible, and Hyman was poor in this game. And I didn't see anything
yesterday.
And so there you go. Ekholm and Arvidsson, they're in a bit of a funk. McDavid, I think that he was so keyed up about going to that tournament that he was thinking ahead. And I just think he's still drained, absolutely mentally, psychically, spiritually, physically, in every single way drained from that experience with the incredible emotions, pressure. It's like a light switch that's burnt out. Like he just needs a new circuit put in there, and it has to be such a huge moment. And then to come, it's not easy to play in the NHL, not even for Connor McDavid, and to come back and have to perform against psyched up NHL players who now want to. Connor McDavid was booed in this game. I haven't heard him booed a lot in previous games.
Okay.
First shift is he's carrying the puck on the power play. Where Draisaitl scores is he's circling the net and actually looks really good in that play. He's getting booed. So I think the whole world is all about stopping Connor McDavid, including the Washington Capitals, all the other players. They always are, but it's even more so now. All the fans are keyed up. Everyone's keyed up except for him. He's still just, it's hard I think, to recharge after that. And that's what we're seeing. So I'm not worried. I'm not alarmed. And I think he's going to come out of it.
Well, to some extent, like I think he's building towards the playoffs. Like this year is all about the playoffs. He's had the governor on, as Struddy puts it, or the but it's I mean, I talk about plus minus more than most folks, but here's McDavid last 5 years, plus 21, plus 28, plus 22, plus 35. And now this year he's all the way down at plus 4, which is to say it was plus 15 a couple of weeks ago, which was sort of at the low end of target. And, like he's supposed to be the big difference maker. So I do think I'm sure he'll snap out of it. I'm sure the team will snap out of it. But right now it is painful to watch. It looked like an exhibition game in September in terms of the performance.
My number, Bruce, is 15 out of 19. 15 out of 19 players in this game got a failing grade. And in that group, 7 got 6 of them got 3 out of 10, and one of them got 2 out of 10. Bouchard got 2 out of 10. McDavid, Podkolzin, Savoy, Hyman, Klingberg, and Pickard got 3 out of 10. Only 4 players got passing marks. I don't know, like.
And how many of those were 5?
Well, I did give some 7s because I thought Nuge, Skinner, and Draisaitl were all good. Like they didn't have a lot of defensive issues, and Emberson was a 5. He just barely passed. So this was just a really rancid game from the Oilers, and they've got to pick it up. What's their next game, Bruce?
It is at Tampa on Tuesday.
Too bad it's not on Wednesday. They could use another day.
I gave 12 failing grades yesterday, David. That was just probably the most I've given in any one game this season. Like they played 2 real wretched games in a row here.
I don't think I've given 15. I can't remember. Maybe in the Decade of Darkness.
That's a lot.
In the Decade of Darkness, we probably did give fairly regularly have games of 12, 13, 14, 15, 18 failing grades. I don't know if we failed everyone in a game, but sometimes it must have happened. Bruce, let's move on to the conundrum because I think we've belabored this enough. But the conundrum is goaltending, and we haven't talked about Pickard's play. But so there was we did talk about the power play goal where he looked bad. Ovechkin's high slot shot. It is Ovechkin shooting, but it was from the high slot. But it was Ovechkin shooting, so I kind of let him off the hook on that. I just don't. I'm not seeing it. Like I know Jack Michaels talks a lot about Pickard being like the best, one of the best backups in the NHL this year. He's got a good 1-loss record, Bruce. I'll give him that. But he's playing on a really good team, and you should have a good 1-loss record on a good team. He's had good games, but between him and Skinner, I'm starting to think we're getting close to the trade deadline. They have to ascertain their biggest need, and I'm starting to think their biggest need might be a goalie. Evander Kane, I think he's back skating. He's skating better. I think they need to pick up another defenseman, but I don't think they need to pick up a top 4 defenseman. I think either Emberson or Klingberg can step up and play with Darnell Nurse, and they'll be okay. I'm not sure there is a top 4 D-man on it, but I'm starting to think a goalie, Bruce, and they're just not. If Skinner doesn't get it done, which happened in the playoffs last year, he didn't get it done. They needed to go to 2 goalies. I think that Pickard came in and played well. I'm just not willing to make that bet this year that will happen, that they'll be bailed out by this goaltending duo in the playoffs. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's good management. These 2 goalies, they're going to need 2 goalies, I think, to win the cup. I think Skinner has shown that he can have bad spells, and they're going to need to put someone in probably at some point. And I just don't think between them there's enough there to win the Stanley Cup. And I would prefer them. That might be the thing, is to trade for another goalie. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm starting to lean that same way. Skinner, For all that he's got a valid contract, which I stand by that position, as outside the top 32 paid goalies in the league, being a number one on a contending team, um, which in part's a forced issue because they spent their money at other positions or wasted it in dead cap. Uh, that The way the team is built is average goaltending with strengths at various skater positions. Um, but Skinner has definitely fallen on the wrong side of the fan base. Man, he gets eviscerated every game, no matter how bad the team plays in front of him. There was many people maintaining he cost them the game yesterday when the whole team, frankly, stunk in
Yeah.
that game yesterday. They had 4 grade A shots in that game, and you're blaming the goalie. Anyway, he wasn't great yesterday. I'll give you that. Uh, and what by the time he was great, the game was lost. He kept it from going from 5-3 to 10-3. It seemed like in the third period, but in the end, I guess that didn't really make any difference. And it kind of breaks my heart, that the way sometimes the fans turn on players, but when they do, I mean, it becomes an avalanche. And speaking of teams that traded out their goalies this year, and I can't help but think back to a guy named Devin Dubnik, who in this town posted consecutive seasons of 916, 914, and 920 from 2010 to 13 when the team did stink. And then in 2013-14, a bunch of stuff happened, including a new backup, a new baby, changing goalie equipment rules, and the swarm. And things went sideways, and he had an 891 that year. And by the halfway point of the season, he was gone, run out of Edmonton. And after that, he went to Minnesota, where he posted 5 consecutive seasons: 929, 918, 923, 918, 913. Pretty good. But he didn't do that for Edmonton because he had part of a bad season here. And see you later, chum.
But Bruce, I'm
So,
not saying trade Skinner. I'm saying like
well,
Skinner's got a good.
some
I'm
people are
saying
saying that.
trade, just replace Pickard is my
Oh,
point.
okay.
Like you don't have to trade Skinner. He can still like even if you trade for a goalie, he can be your number one still. Just you just I just think they're going to need two goalies, and these they, because of that, because you can't rely necessarily on Skinner. You need someone a little bit more reliable than Pickard. Is my point. What do you think of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, Pickard, today was the first game since uh, game one of the season his first start of the season where he gave in more than 4 goals. And he's only had one prior game or 2 prior games where he let in more than 3 goals. Like he's been pretty consistent, 3 or 2 goals against most games. But today he sure didn't have it. I have to say he doesn't fill me with confidence due to his technique. Like he's a battler and he makes a lot of emergency saves, so shall we say, as opposed to being a really strong technical goalie, which is not to my preference. But on the plus side, the team loves this guy. He's very, very popular in the room and among the star players on the team, which is an issue. And if they moved on from him and brought in another guy, and then that other guy didn't get the job done, you wonder then what the fallout might be from that. So they have to tread very, very carefully, especially in the current environment where there's an important contract looming on the horizon.
Yeah,
You want
they got to
to,
win.
yeah,
They got
yeah.
to
Well,
win. They
that's the
got to
thing. You got
win.
to get it right. Is I
And
guess
so
where I'm
if this
going
is
with it. You got to get it right.
there's still a chance that their biggest need might be something else. But I think at forward, um, I just think they can pick up some pieces at forward, like a fourth line center, a third line defenseman. But you know, uh, it might be goalie. And again, there's still 2 weeks to decide. And I think you got to be patient. But Pickard's at 896 save percentage. Last year he was 909. 909, that was like he did the job last year. And in the playoffs, he was sensational. 939 save percentage. Bruce, I think the other teams are starting to exploit him. he's getting beat too often on soft goals. So is Skinner. You can't have that. You're not going to win if you have that. And so I'm not saying definitively do it, but this is what I'm starting to think is the number one need. And this weekend certainly didn't change my mind. Like if I was leaning that way before, starting to lean that way, even more so now.
So yeah, 896 includes today, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they've both taken a tumble in the last couple of games. I mean, last 3 games, the Oilers have allowed 5, then 6, then 7 goals against. Like it's really become a defensive crap show. And
One
the
interesting
goalie's a part of it, but not all of it.
So there's the Anaheim Ducks goalie that's constantly mentioned, but the
Gibson,
goalie that what's his
he
name?
he
Josh
got hurt.
Gibson. No,
He got hurt. John Gibson, he got hurt last night.
excuse me, John Gibson. I'm not that thrilled with him anyway.
Right.
Another name that came up was mentioned on a podcast by Darren Dreger is Jordan Binnington.
Oh, yeah.
And McDavid, if you're worried about McDavid's contract, well, McDavid just played with Binnington. He knows what Binnington's all about. So maybe that would be okay with McDavid. Now, Binnington, of course, in the first 3 games of the Four Nations tournament, was letting in 1 or 2 bad goals a game as well. But he did come up awfully big in the big game, and he's probably a better goalie than Pickard. So if the price is right,
No doubt about that.
he's got now. They'd have to. It's a tough deal because you'd have to have St. Louis eat part of his contract. You'd have to give up draft picks to do that. I think he earns more than $6 million a year for a couple more years, if I'm not mistaken. And it's not an easy deal to make, but it's not easy to win the Stanley Cup, and you've got to gamble. You've got to take chances to win the cup. You've got to make moves, and that might be the move. So I'm going to write a post later today about that.
Yeah, he's got 2 more years to run at $6 million, as you say, and getting teams to buy down contracts at the deadline is easy peasy if the contract is expiring. But if there's years to run, then that's money out of their future cap budgets, and teams are much more reluctant to do that. They're much more likely to extract a high price for the privilege.
The good news is the cap is shooting up.
Unless they're Chicago trading Jake McCabe, in which case they just do it because they're good guys or something.
Yeah,
that's another issue. But
Binnington, the cap is shooting up, and there's lots of third-party teams you could involve that might take that cap space. Like St. Louis might not want to, but they might. I don't know what their cap situation is, but they might not be a cap team in the next couple of years with the cap shooting up. So it might not be as big, quite as large an issue as it has been in the past. So,
whoever takes on a chunk of the cap, for years, you're not talking about 6 weeks of a quarter of a guy's salary or something. You're talking about two years plus 6 weeks of if it's a third party retention, and that's actual money. It's not just against the salary cap, but somebody's got to cut that guy a check. As I understand it, the teams that are holding the cap space are holding the bag in terms of having to pay the guy.
$6 million. It would be if someone ate half.
Some of these budget teams, they don't want any part of that. If they're not a budget team, they're probably at the ceiling or near enough that they don't want to be eaten. So it's not easily done. There might be some sucker out there somewhere that'll do
Fair
it
enough.
for the
That's
right
a good point
price.
too.
But it's the price is going to be dear, and as for draft picks, while the Oilers aren't exactly flush, what they can offer St. Louis uniquely to St. Louis is their own draft picks back that the Blues paid up to get Broberg and Holloway on the offer sheets. The Oilers got their 2nd and 3rd from this upcoming draft, and also their 3rd from, I think it's 2028. That was sort of this pot sweetener at the end. So those draft picks are valuable wherever they got traded. But in the particular case of St. Louis, it would be their own picks, and meaning they're shy in those picks this year because they've already traded them. So they might be happy to recover them somehow. Trading
Possibly.
Binnington, I don't know. And I wonder how much of it, you say from Drager, and I wonder, well, how much of it's clickbait of him saying, well, who's a hot goalie right now that we can put in the same URL as McDavid? Well, Binnington just just won the Four Nations face off and was one of the big heroes of the tournament. It's a natural name to let's start a rumor. Who knows if there's anything to it other than
Oh, it was definitely speculation, Bruce. It's
uh-huh,
this was speculation.
uh-huh.
But if you're St. Louis, you're not really going anywhere. They're thinking of
Yeah,
trading Shen.
he's expiring, so that's a difference.
They're on a rebuild though, right? This
Yeah.
is a team on a rebuild. So, might make sense. So we'll see. We'll see. Um, anyway, let's leave it there. And we'll talk again after the Tampa game, I guess.
Yeah. One more quick number because it's on top of my number yesterday, which was 10 shots by D, 8 by forwards. Today's game, 15 shots by D, 10 by forwards by the Oilers. So the forwards are generating next to nothing. And there were so many good numbers in this game. I had to get that one in there too. Bad.
Alrighty. Thanks for talking tonight, Bruce.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.